Donald Trump doesn't have $500 million just sitting around. If he did, then he wouldn't be Donald Trump. He wouldn't be the success he is. He wouldn't be that smart. You don't have that kind of money. And so he's got to come up with it some way, somehow. And so it's challenging, right? You got to go to the credit markets, the bail markets, the bond markets, okay? So you go out to the credit markets and you say, I need this money. Well, $500 million is a lot of money to have to get. And they knew this, which is exactly why they put this incredibly onerous amount that's unprecedented on him. And that begs the question of whether or not that's really in keeping with who we are as a nation. I'll tell you, it's not. It's absolutely, positively not. It is so un-American in every single way, shape, or form. You know who gets this? Vivek Ramaswamy. He came out with a statement today, and he said this is absolutely atrocious. Letitia James is so political. This whole thing is political. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not who we are as Americans. And by the way, it ought to go to the Supreme Court, and somebody ought to take a look at the Eighth Amendment. So here we go. Let's listen to Vivek Ramaswamy with a statement he just released.
The Letitia James crusade against Donald Trump is disgusting and is a threat to every American. When you have prosecutors who are elected to office on a promise of going after one particular individual as she campaigned on, then go on to keep a campaign promise using the legal system to do it, it's unjust. And this particular case reveals how ugly that is. In this case, you're talking about a crime for which there was literally no identifiable victim. The people who did business with Donald Trump weren't individual consumers. They were sophisticated financial institutions who made money from their dealings. And yet Letitia James is using a consumer protection statute to literally make up numbers and say, hey, you have hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties that you owe. You have bond to post by a particular date of an unreasonable magnitude that even no billionaire is regularly able to meet. And to say, if you don't do it, I'm going to start seizing your property. It's disgusting, and it is a threat to not only private property, but threat to the justice system and to the rights of every American. But the good news is there is an argument to push back against this in short order. And that's the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment prevents the imposition of excessive bail or excessive fines. And if there's ever an example that meets that to a T, it's the bond that's been demanded of Donald Trump in this disgusting New York Letitia James-led prosecution. This is an opportunity for the Supreme Court to step in and say, no, we're not going to stand for this kind of lawfare. Whether it's against Donald Trump or a Democrat, it's wrong. We don't want to empower prosecutors to be able to use bond and bail or bonds as a way of effectively achieving a goal that they couldn't achieve through the front door, which is bankrupting an opponent, even stopping them from being able to appeal those decisions. That's un-American. It needs to end now, not just for the protection of Donald Trump, but for the protection of every American. And in this disaster, I at least see a silver lining of some hope that that's exactly what we'll get from the Supreme Court. It's not just the current justices, not even the conservative ones, that would necessarily agree with this principle. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a staunch defender of this part of the Eighth Amendment as well. She's no longer with us, but the other justices are. And I hope this can be another 9-0 rebuke of the kind of lawfare that we're seeing against Donald Trump and indirectly against every American in this country today. And I think it could be the most important Eighth Amendment case of the 21st century. I hope they bring it, and I hope they succeed. The Letitia James crusade against Donald Trump is disgusting.
Think about that, guys. So basically, the Eighth Amendment says that excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Is this not excessive? $500 million? I mean, I think it's very excessive. Very, very excessive. So I think Vivek Ramaswamy, gosh, I like that guy. He's really smart. And I think he's got a big future in the Republican Party. I think he's got a big future in the Trump cabinet, maybe even vice presidency. I don't think so, though. I'm hearing different things. But he's a very interesting guy. He might make a great Treasury Secretary. A lot of other things he could do as well. But Vivek Ramaswamy hitting the nose on the head. In other words, you can't have this excessive bail. I mean, this is like, the crime. Does the punishment fit the crime? If you assume that, okay, he should not have inflated the valuation as he saw it to be for his properties, or he shouldn't have inflated square footage, whatever you want to go with. Is it really $500 million? No, it's because of who he is and because of the politics of the moment and because they are trying to take him down. So it should go to the Supreme Court. I'm just sitting there going, wait a second, why hasn't this been in the appellate court as of yet? I think the Supreme Court would say, okay, it's got to go to the appellate court first, and then it would get kicked up to the Supreme Court. So we need that to happen at the very, very least. But what's wild, and maybe this is a reason for the Supreme Court to step in, is that the judge is saying, nope, you still got to pay this. You got to pay this crazy, insane, totally insane fine before you actually get to the appellate court. So think of the damage done. Think of the precedent this sets. If the government can say, you know what, we're going to fine you, and even though you're going to appeal it, but we're going to ruin you in the process. We're going to ruin your business. We're going to ruin everything that you have tried to build while you wait around for your appeal because you weren't able to meet the $500 million bond bail. That's kind of crazy. Really crazy, shall we say. I mean, look, I'm just blown away by it, all of it. And I hope for everyone's sake that this is addressed, and it's addressed fairly, because this is just a really egregious example of the courts and the state just getting way too big and trying to muscle their way in things that they just shouldn't be involved in, period.